Good evening, and this is Belonging, the Life Journey podcast brought to you by Green Hills Christian Fellowship. And I'm Eric Dizon. It's good to be back after taking a break for quite a while. And once again, we're having some conversations tonight. It's going to be an hour of just talking about belonging, which is a very essential part of our life journey. We're meant to live in community with others. We're not meant to live alone. So tonight we'll be actually talking about media and how we can use media to be a positive influence to build lives and communities. Actually, nowadays, everyone is not just a consumer of media or content, but also producers of the content. Anyone can actually do broadcast literally online. And helping me tonight in this conversation is experienced broadcaster and media personality, who's also the president of FEBC Philippines. Let's welcome Mr. Dan Andrew Cura.
Hello, Kuya Eric. Good evening, and good evening to everyone here in the Belonging podcast. Good evening to everyone.
Yes, it's interesting that I'm coming live from my room now in our house. Dito lang ako sa kwarto, no? As I was saying earlier, Dan, all of us can actually do a broadcast or publish anything online. The online media has really revolutionized this world of media.
Yeah, very much so. You're also talking to me in my home. So when the pandemic hit, basically everything got converted into a studio of sorts in many homes today. So not only are we consumers of media, we're now producers of media, given the facilities that we've been given through the internet and even our smartphones.
That's right, and of course, you represent also traditional media, particularly the medium of radio. And a little later, we'll talk about how that your primary medium also has evolved to include other platforms of your medium. That's
Mm-hmm.
right.
Yeah, very much so. I think at one point people were saying that radio was going to die. It's a dying medium. But apparently radio is very versatile, and through the years it has moved and developed itself. And so even now, with the issue of convergence, so in a sense, radio is still there. And for the most part, especially in the provinces, radio is still the main source of information and entertainment in the provinces particularly.
That's right. That's good to know, no? That somehow radio still plays a critical part in being a contributor to nation building or community building to begin with. Tonight we'll talk about radio too, and plus other forms of media that FEBC has adopted and tapped into. But earlier we mentioned, Dan, that and friends, feel free to join this conversation if you have some comments. But because whether you like it or not, you can be, perhaps you are a producer of content online, and most likely you are, whether it's a blog or a video log or an actual podcast. Many people do live streaming left and right. What can you say about this, Dan? Everybody really is into it, and the power of influence actually is in the hands of people.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, talking about influence, that's really like one reason why I eventually got myself into media work. It's actually to influence, in a sense. And the thing with the situation right now, where there is every bit of source of information that's going around, is all the more being careful of the material that we consume, and second, being careful with the material that we dish out or that we produce. And I think maybe that's the difference between what you would call traditional media and this, how shall I say, parang media on the go. No, kasi traditional media has a way to check facts. They look at information, they look at details, they gather them, curate them, put it together, say this is good, this is not good. Whereas media on the go, what happens is I have my iPhone, I just shove it out and then shoot, and then start to make my comments. But there are certain, shall we say, certain rules of thumb that you should be aware of in terms of how you should present a particular matter. So that's why there's always care that because you are influencing, you need to be careful with the kind of material that you dish out because people will pick it up. Now, at the same time, because content is important, what they will do is it will be the people who will filter, determine what kind of content they want to watch or that they want to listen to. So if you do want people to listen to you, then you have to have a sense of credibility, and the truth should be on your side. So I think that would be the main difference: the tendency of people just winging it, and the others that actually make that to them it's a serious thing that they're doing. I think that those are the main differences.
Yeah, you mentioned the term wing it, no? Nung panahon natin, panahon ko pala, traditional media, traditional radio, it took a lot of preparations and even study to be able to land in a broadcasting job. And of course, it takes a lot to also to prepare content that you make sure it's okay, make sure it's polished, make sure it's worthy of professional scrutiny. And because you really sense that you're going to be talking to a lot of people. I think we lost Dan for a while. Yung po, no? Radio, I mean, media.
Yeah, just to pick up. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yung radio, di ba, it took a lot, and because the responsibility that's in your hands is a big one, and nowadays the responsibility is even bigger because the influence and exposure is wider. You mentioned wing it. What have you observed? Do a lot of people do they actually do a lot of preparation or study or?
Well, I think that's I mean, there are good people. I mean, mind you, there are a lot of good, especially young people that are doing very good material right now, no? But there is also equally a number of people because of the excitement of this new medium that they, like I said, they want to show something, and whether it is even polished. So hindi na nga polished eh. Ang importante yung mabilis. Meron ka na kagad mabigay na information. And sometimes, because of the speed at which you would want to be able to give the information, then what is lost is the veracity of the information. To try to check kung tama ba yung information. No? Now, kung if it's just parang entertainment, then maybe that's medyo okay lang yon. Pero if you're trying to become a quote-unquote journalist in the process and try to provide some news and information, then kailangan talagang may preparation. As a matter of fact, if you are an accredited broadcaster, you have to be part of the kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas. And if you are, then you need to be part of you need to apply the National Broadcast Code of the Philippines, So may mga rules like kunwari, showing children. Hindi ka basta pwede magpakita ng mga bata na nakalansangan. You need to be careful along those lines. So yun lang yung kailangang parang if you want to do this seriously, then that means there has to be some sense of preparation kasi you would still at least want to give something that is clean, maayos. Now, alam natin, kasi even ngayon sa mga mainstream media, yung mga binabato na galing sa cellphone, galing sa mga cameras, tinatanggap na nila. Kasi nga, information is important. Although if you notice, they will always say, we have not personally verified this particular material. Kasi nga meron
So,
ding tampered material. So I think yun yung
yeah.
yun parang nawawala dun sa parang profession of broadcasting that we need to be careful about. And especially also if you're, say, kunwari, doing some help like counseling, nako, all the more. So church work, counseling work, nako, we need to be very careful about those.
Yep. Censorship is kind of a challenge on online media or new media.
Well, maybe just to comment on that, I guess siguro kasi now censorship kasi is a bad word. Parang ganun sa
Sabagay.
censor, diba? Pero I think the main is just to qualify what you're going to say. It's not a matter of censor, yung puputulin mo yung gusto mo lang ilabas kasi ayaw mo rin yun, still want the truth. But you still need to qualify what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. So like take, for example, saying profanity over the air, even over the internet, dahil walang nagko-control, hindi pa rin tama yon. Kasi if you're going to use our biblical parameters, sabi yun, whatever is good, whatever is just, whatever is praiseworthy, think about these things. And so yun din dapat yung gagawin natin.
Nakakatawa rin, mention, sabi mo, marami naman positive influences din on the internet and good content, and there are many people out there that are really also contributing to the fray, kumbaga, to try to make a good positive influence in the lives of people. And the issues could range from even entertainment, or sports, or whatever.
Madami nang na-discover dahil sa internet na mamagandang mga tao.
Oo, no? Sa YouTube.
Yeah.
Yung
mga YouTube sensation na sinasabi nila.
May TV channel now of many people. That's true. Yeah. And of course, part of what we're talking about here is dishing out information. And we know that is a way of empowering people, no? When we provide them information, when we provide them things that could help them or educate them, it enables and build their lives, right?
Yep. Tsaka no one has, sabi nga, no one has a monopoly of good information and good values. So if you do have that and you share it, then you're able to reach out to people who at one point or the other may not have had any opportunity to hear such truth or such value.
And yes, values. You mentioned values. There are many ways of nurturing values and communicating good values. Sometimes, as they say, infotainment, even entertainment now has become a tool to dish out important information or good information that people will need.
Yeah, kasi nga, one of the other things that's happening right now is that sometimes information cannot be consumed unless it is also presented well. So malaki rin yung bagay kung paano siyang pine-present. So yung iba nga, yung sinasabi nilang infotainment, so kung magbibigay ka na rin lang ng magandang information, so yung iba gagamit ng animation, yung iba naman it's the way that they say their piece. It provides some sense of life into the information that you are providing. Basta ang point lang is don't let the entertainment get ahead of the information. Kasi sometimes the entertainment part of it becomes the distraction from the actual message you'd like to be able to say. So I think, yes, there's value in putting some color and some interesting material, music, or graphics. Pero kailangan it should not pull away from the truth and the fact and the value that you're trying to share.
Yeah, a little later we'll talk about presentation or of our messages, but we're talking also about content, Dan. Content, as they say, is key because the competition is global. When you go online, you're not just competing with a few or with those, but globally. And to get a hearing, you need to make sure that your content is good.
Mhm. Yun yung isang ano, I mean, if you're a student of mass communications, yun yung sinasabi lagi ng professor mo, no, na content is king, sabi nga. Kaya kasi dahil nga what good is your nice bells and whistles kung wala ka rin naman sinasabi, hindi ka rin naman papanoorin. So kaya talagang importante talaga saan nanggagaling yung core ng content. Dito nga sa Far East Broadcasting Company, because we are a Christian radio network, sabi namin, content is king, but content is king only if the king is in the content. So importante na yung aming worldview is from a biblical worldview, because we believe that the biblical worldview provides a core of good values. So yun yung pinanggagalingan. So and I would encourage, if there are those Christians who want to delve into and go into broadcasting or doing internet broadcasting, that should be a key, because you can't give what you don't have. So you have to have first the values, the good values. And again, that goes for whether you are an evangelical or not, or a believer or not. Ang importante is there are good, transcendent values that everybody espouses. Yun ang dapat nating ilabas, kasi yun yung minsan nawawala. So kaya then you can have influence, then people can belong. Sabi mo nga dun sa inyong topic, can belong in that sphere of values that you're talking about.
It's interesting that you talked about, what FEBC has been, is now, and will always be, to be a positive influence, because you believe in the key message that you've brought into our world, sharing it to many nations, throughout the decades. It's the gospel of life and transformation through Christ.
Yeah, nag-evolve na nga kami, and you were once part of the work of FEBC, and when we started in FEBC, basically ang parang pinaka-battle cry is Christ to the world by radio, and we would always say that Christ is the message, hindi nagbabago yon. The world is the recipient, di rin nagbabago yon. Pero yung radyo nagbago, So
True.
Yeah, so sometime back we had to rethink of our position and say it's no longer Christ to the world by radio, but rather communicating Christ in our world. So Christ and the world are still there. It's the communication platform that changed. So sinasabi namin ngayon, communicating Christ in our world, on air, radyo pa rin, online, through the internet, and on the ground through partners. Kasi meron ding mga partners that are providing information that we can use in our broadcast.
Isa-isayin natin yan, friends. You're listening to a conversation with Dan Cura, President of FEBC Philippines, and also an experienced broadcaster and media personality. And we're talking about how you and I can actually be a positive influence using what we have in our hands, and this is online media. Plus also, we're talking to those operating media entities, whether it's in publishing or broadcasting, that we have the responsibility to be a positive influence for our communities, to build lives instead of destroy them. And this is part of our accountability to live in community and to belong to one another. That's why we're talking about belonging. So let me share with you, friends, Dan has a presentation that he's prepared, and we'll ask Mike to play it. So let's watch this for a while before we continue this conversation.
What does transformation look like? A change of mind? A shift in perspective? A switch in lifestyles? Repentance? These may be tiny, sometimes imperceptible steps, but nonetheless parts of a journey each person must take. They can eventually lead to significant life change and transformation that will touch others. At FEBC, transformation is the measure of our mission. Over 7 decades since its founding in 1948, FEBC has continually delivered the message of the gospel in radio programs that address every facet of the listener's life. FEBC broadcasts 1,500 hours a week on 12 AM and FM radio stations, with an additional 1,200 hours a week of online streaming in 29 languages. FEBC uses radio and modern-day communication tools such as web and mobile technologies to communicate the love and message of Jesus Christ to various Filipino people groups to bring about genuine life change and social transformation. 702 DZAS in Mega Manila, agapay ng sambayanan. 98.7 DZFE in Metro Manila, the Master's Touch. 1143 DZMR Santiago City, Missions Radio. 106.3 DZRK Quezon, Palawan, Radio Kapit Bisig. CARE 104.3 The Way FM, Legazpi City. 98.7 DYFR Cebu City, Life-Changing Radio. 1233 DYVS Bacolod City, The Sweet Voice of Salvation. 97.5 DYFE Tacloban City, Unang Tugon ng Pamayanan. 1062 DXKI Coronadal City, The Friendly Voice of South Central Mindanao. 1116 DXAS Zamboanga City, Your Community Radio. 1197 DXFE Davao City, The Good News Radio. 103.3 The New J Cagayan de Oro City, Your Positive Choice. The Good News of Jesus Christ is also heard 283 hours a week on shortwave, reaching China, Russia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, and Thailand in 43 languages. The Internet has made it possible for us to reach our intended audiences worldwide in more cost-effective ways. Online tools have given birth to FEBC Radio TV on Facebook Live and local cable television, Pinoy Connection for overseas Filipino workers, Now XD, Life in Flux for millennials, and RightNow.ph for students. Whether the message is delivered through music, teaching, drama, public affairs, disaster response, peace building, or other advocacies, the outcome is for life, and the glory is God's alone. One of the pillars of the FEBC mission is to develop and maintain partnerships with like-minded organizations. Without partners, we would be missing out on God's design for His work to be accomplished in His way. Partners like you, churches, organizations, individuals whose hearts are devoted to seeing God's kingdom built on earth as we communicate Christ in our world.
Wow, what a very good presentation, Dan. And we affirm FEBC for what it's doing and its thrust of incorporating on air, online, and on the ground.
Yeah.
Talk more about that.
Well, like I said, when we started, so everything was basically through what we will call, so ito medyo technical lang, terrestrial broadcast. Pag terrestrial broadcast, this is the airwaves that we use, and in a sense, it belongs to the government. So that means we have to go through all the necessities of going through Congress and all that, no, yung getting a franchise. So that's our legacy medium. That has been what we have been using for the past 72 years in terms of broadcasting the gospel. So sabi namin, hindi namin bibitawan yan. Kasi nga, even with the influx of the internet in the 1990s, we know that there are still areas in the Philippines, many areas in the Philippines and in Asia for that matter, that they still do not have good broadband. As a matter of fact, pati nga dito sa Maynila, may sumasabit pa yung broadband natin, no?
Oh,
And when the telcos go down, radio is up. So sabi namin hindi natin bibitawan yon. And then from there we started to develop nga looking at sabi naman natin hindi naman tayo pwedeng magpahuli because the younger set don't know radio from a hole in the ground. They can't understand what radio is anymore. Ang alam nilang radio, when you say radio, the thing that they can think of is the one in the car, no? But everything's in their smartphone. So sabi natin, we need to be able to help them in a medium that they can understand, because that's also something distinctive of FEBC. We want to speak to people in their heart language. And the heart language of the young people is in the internet. Dun sila eh. So we needed to be present there. And so we explored. Plus, we also discovered many of our OFWs, 10 million people, are outside of the Philippines, and they still use the internet to try to get the information about the Philippines. So sabi namin, we need to be in that platform as well. And then later on, yung developing things on the ground, we realized that FEBC nga does not have the monopoly of all the information and the expertise. So why will we reinvent the wheel if there are experts like the churches? The church, like GCF, you're experts with regard to mobilizing people and getting to know people. So why don't we work with the church? And that's why we eventually, during this pandemic, we opened our Sunday so that people can listen on radio to the worship services of the different churches. So may mga ganong moves. All for the, all for the main interest of bringing people in, so that in a sense, in your key phrase, so that they can belong, so that they know that there is a radio station that can minister to them, that can talk to them, whether it be yung regular news natin, na kailangan natin malaman, balita, or if it is something of the heart. So kung kailangan mo ng kausap, kaibigan, ito, nandito kami, we're here on all the different facets. So that was the main precursor for this reinventing what radio is all about. So we use the convergence of radio, the internet, video. Kaya nga pati kami ngayon, yung talking head namin on radio, tinawag namin na radio TV. So that you can see people there, and we can add more information visually as well. So kasama na din yun.
Nung araw, pwede yung mukha namin dahil hindi nakikita, radyo lang. Mahirap na.
Ano daw, yung mukha na pang radyo lang. Ngayon, wala na. Talagang the playing field is leveled.
Dan, we have a few friends listening, and I'd just like to acknowledge, of course, Nene Heresa joining us. Hello po. Annalisa Mariano, she has a comment here. She agreed with the fact that social media is a powerful platform for communication and information dissemination. But it should be, sinabi mo na, responsible, factual, true, and guarded by principles that promotes integrity and transparency. So, and of course, Ruby Agana, and hello to also. If you have insights, some comments, or even questions, feel free to post it on our Facebook or even our YouTube channel. Dan, may question na, Dan. Maybe you can address this one.
Yeah. What advice can you give parents whose teens might be accessing sites that distort their belief and pick up trash, since we are not with them 24/7? Well, there are two sides in that particular question. One is don't wait to instruct your young people regarding values. Don't wait until they access the internet. The values should be inculcated with them already, because sabi nga namin sa broadcast, the dial is on your side. Hindi na pala dial ngayon, no? The button, the button is on your side. So if you want to turn it off and change the channel, it's up to you. So the value is not incumbent in what is being shown, it is incumbent in the one watching. So kaya the values need to be inculcated before the access of media. So kaya importante talaga yung involvement ng mga magulang in terms of ano ba yung values na gusto nating i-espouse. The other side of it naman is siguro kayo as parents also is to have a dialogue with your children and discuss with them ano ba yung mga programang gusto nyong mapakinggan, ano ba yung gusto ninyong makita, and then kayong dalawa ang maghanap ng mga programang magandang panoodin. Kasi sabi nga nila, if your children cannot watch a particular program with you, then baka may issue doon. Kasi kailangan you can actually both watch and listen to a particular program. So like I said, the values need to be present already. Ang minsan na Pastor Eric na nagiging problem kasi is some parents use media as their nanny, as their yaya. You know, hinahayaan na bahala na kayo dyan, manood na kayo dyan.
Minsan mga little children, you know.
Oo, you know, and they could care less with whether what they're watching or what they're listening to. So kaya importante na kailangan yung bago nyo ibigay yung device, di ba? Kailangan meron munang understanding. Now, but if they're already in their teens, medyo medyo Johnny come lately na. So kailangan na pag teens, dialogue. I think there has to be a dialogue with regard to media consumption vis-a-vis the values that you are espousing. Yeah.
That's so true, no? Sabi nga niya, how can they we can't control them 24/7, and that's so real, that's so true. That's why, as you recommended, that it's important to put the control inside your kids.
Yeah,
and we do that by teaching them young, and of course teaching them the right values, so that they're a bit older and have access to these things. They have a filter, no? See, that's part of the consumers of media nowadays, is that they become the censors, you know. They determine what is right and wrong, what is true or not true, where to go and where not to go, what to choose and what not to choose, no.
Tapos siguro Pastor Eric, maybe just to add also, which kasi kasama din yung media distribution yung pag-pass on ng information. Kaya nga always take a pause when you get a posting on your Facebook page, on your Viber groups, on your Instagram. Before you share, you need to think twice or more than that. Number one, is the information I'm going to like or I'm going to share truthful, factual, kagaya nung sabi kanina sa atin ni Annalisa. No? So tayo mismo yon before we actually send out. Kasi kaya lalong nagkakaroon ng misunderstanding is because like tayo ng like, di natin binabasa, tapos yung pala mali yung information or nakakasakit pala yung information na pwede pala nating, dapat hindi na lang natin pinasa. Because again, like what you did say, the control is in you. Because the like I said, as far as the producers of content is concerned, if they are not very discriminating, they will just produce whatever kind of content there is. Kasi nga, wala nang controls, and which is very different nga from traditional media. Kasi like sa FEBC, pag mali yung information na binigay ng broadcaster namin, matatanggal sa trabaho yung broadcaster namin.
Yeah. Well, we need to take a short break right now. But then when we return, we'll talk about what FEBC is trying to do in terms of building lives and families and communities through their various online or their various platforms, the three-pronged platforms that Dan mentioned: on air, on the ground, and online. But right now, Dan, I would like to share to you this the Gigi journey, or the growth group journey of a couple in our church in GCF. I'd like to share with us how they're being part of a small group. They belong to a small group, have been a critical part and important part of their lives. Let's watch. Hello, everyone. My name is Marvin Gonsalves, and this is my wife, Agnes. We have been members of a couples growth group called Coffee Saturday since 2017. Coffee stands for Knowing Our Father Intimately.
I have been a member of GIG, or God is Good Ladies Growth Group, since 2015 through the invitation of Annie Mojica, a co-parent of GCFICS. Reaping the benefits of belonging to a growth group led me to pray for my husband to be able to join one too.
I remember Agnes was persistent in inviting me then. I hesitated many times for many reasons. I reckon, apart from the fact that I'm very busy with my work and a lot of things, I don't really feel comfortable sharing my life struggles, personal experiences, etc. with other people. Although I am a Christian already, there are just very few Christians that I can trust to share my life stories. I negotiated with God, and God made it happen. I no longer have any reasons to dilly-dally. I joined with my wife, Agnes, Coffee Saturday Growth Group sometime in 2017. I was very quiet at first, just observing and contributing very little to the discussions, especially when it comes to sharing personal stories. It took a while for me to lighten up, as initially I really felt that men in my group are mature Christians and are living far holier lives than I do, and I was too embarrassed to share for fear I might say something that is not doctrinally sound. Little did I know that they too are people with real questions and who themselves are honestly seeking real answers just like us. As we kept attending the meetings, I soon realized that we are all the same in our struggles in our Christian walk. Later on, when Kuya Lem, our GG leader, assigned me to lead the discussion of the topic in our next meeting, my mind was shouting, "Don't accept it." But when I opened my mouth, I just heard myself saying, "Okay, I'll do it." I can still recall the time when I first led a discussion. I was perspiring all over my body, and Agnes just kept on wiping the sweat off my face. But you know what? Over time, I just kept on stepping out in obedience to God, and the Holy Spirit just met me every time and empowered me to do it. When the lockdown started in March 2020, God inspired me to help push our Coffee Saturday group to continually meet online.
Sharing our personal journeys sheds light to the reality of our struggles, the frustrations and brokenness we experience in our daily walk with God. For us, belonging to a growth group family meant having a relationship based on trust, where we can share and pray for each other's burdens, help and support each other, and rejoice and celebrate with each other. It has fostered a close friendship among us that is founded in the love of Christ and thereby built for life. We have learned that God did not intend for us to be mere Sunday worshipers. He intended for us to be His ministers in our own spheres of influence, where we can physically and spiritually touch someone's life. We can learn to do this by being part of a growth group. So for those of you who still do not belong to a growth group, we sincerely encourage and invite you to join one, because it is only when we gather together in a growth group with people who know us deeply and care for us in the deepest sense that we can really experience true community and biblical care. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Agnes and Marvin, for sharing that wonderful journey thus far with a small group. Dan, I'm sure you are part of a small group, maybe several small groups, and how valuable it is to belong together with others to grow together in our life journey. I think you muted, Dan? We don't have your audio. Okay. Anyway, your You're on Belonging, the Life Journey podcast brought to you by Green Hills Christian Fellowship. And we're actually talking to Mr. Dan Cura of FEBC Philippines and how we can empower lives and communities through media. And we're waiting for him to return to be able to work out his audio. But if you have comments, questions, or even insights, or maybe even experiences of doing a blog or publishing something online or doing some podcasts or broadcasting or a video log, and you're able to use it to influence others, please share us your story. And Carlos, for example, says, I'm using the media to share God's word. Wow, that's great. That's great. If we know that from the Word of God, it's our manual for life and living. And there's so many insights and principles that will not only lead us to the truth, to life and salvation, but even to wise living in the here and now. We are also talking about FEBC and how they're using there being a media entity to be a positive influence in our world, in the families among Filipinos and in the communities here in the Philippines. And upon the return of Dan, we'll talk to him about ways and means that FEBC uses to be a good influence, a positive influence in our communities. So, for example, they have what they call disaster response, and it's a there you go. Let's welcome Dan back. Hi, Dan. Are you back? Okay. I think we're still trying to work out a technical difficulty. But yes, we're talking about how traditional media, such as radio, can be used to be a positive influence in building lives and communities. We're also going to be talking about how they're using online media. I remember when I was still with the FEBC, we were cracking our brains. We tried so many ways and means to reach our mga kababayan natin in many parts of the world through a broadcast, but we were having a hard time doing that. And now it's a possibility. FEBC is able to do that using online media. Carlos contributed to our discussions tonight and says, since one of my gifts from God is creating print ads for my business, I use it to make print ads using the Word of God, post it on my social media account. Well, thanks for sharing that, Carlos. What a good way to do it. You don't have to go very far. Go with what you're doing. And try to use that to be a positive influence in this new media or social media. Okay, Dan seems to be appearing, but
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Are you there, Dan?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Well, okay.
Hello? Yeah.
So this is, if you just joined us, this is Belonging, our live journey podcast every Wednesday, 8 to 9 p.m. over the online channels of Green Hills Christian Fellowship. And we devote 1 hour each Wednesday to talk about this essential part of our life. We're meant to be living in community with others. We're not meant to live alone. And earlier we heard a story of Agnes and All right. And Marvin, and how their belonging in a small group have really been a wonderful journey thus far. If you don't have a small group right now or a growth group in the case of Green Discussion Fellowship, please reach out to us. We can assist you in how you can belong to a small group to experience what it means to be part of a small group community and have accountability in our lives. Dan, can you hear me? Mike is saying that you're here, but no video. Oh, there you go.
Hello, sorry.
It's okay.
Well, that's what live broadcast does.
Okay. It's a good thing I'm very familiar with FEBC, so I've been trying to tell them your story.
Yeah, I was listening to it. Well, let me pick up from you. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So the efforts that we're trying to do right now is actually to try to actually reach out to the different communities, and part of that right now is in the Philippines right now we do have we cover around 65% of the Philippine population, or at least the archipelago of the Philippines, but there is still what we call deaf spots in the Philippines. These are areas of the Philippines where there is no regular radio broadcast. Maybe there will be one church that will do a 15-minute program, but there's nothing on a regular basis. And that's 6 regions of the Philippines that are doing it, 3 in the north and then 3 in the south. So that's why they're deaf spots. So we're trying to fill them in with what we call low-powered FM radios. So they're simple to put up. And they're easy to get licenses for, and it will be through FEBC. And then I know that you mentioned the first response radio, which is the emergency radio broadcast. So it is actually the tool, the radio in a suitcase. So the radio is just the size of 2 suitcases. So one suitcase is the transmitter, the other suitcase is the console.
That's amazing, you know. Parang portable radio station.
Parang portable radio station. And then we realized hindi lang pala siya useful in terms of disaster, but this could actually be a tool to open up the deaf spots. And so that's what we actually did. So when our first endeavor, which you were very much a part of, was the work in Quezon, Palawan.
That's right.
Yeah. So now that is actually an ongoing low-powered FM station that actually reaches the Molbogs, the Palawanons, the Cuyunins, and the Tagbanwas. You know, so many other people groups in the Philippines that many of our city folks don't even know that exist, no? Na meron pala nun. And so ang point natin is how can they belong to the family of God if they're not able to hear the message through these low-powered FM stations. And then we had the opportunity to help during the Yolanda typhoon in Samar, Samar and Leyte, and we positioned ourselves in Tacloban. Now the emergency radio station is now a regular station in Tacloban.
Wow,
so and then ngayon, lately, so we had to run to Virac, Catanduanes because of Typhoon Rolly and Typhoon Ulysses. So we set up emergency broadcast, FRR radio there. And we had our station manager, Raquel Landong, be the team leader in that area because it's close to our Legazpi station. And in the process of doing that, right now, again, the idea now, again, is planted to actually start another local radio station in Catanduanes. So this is, in a sense, these are some of the works that we're doing on the ground. So ito yung on the ground and at the same time on air kasi terrestrial radio pa siya. So that's
in a community affected by a disaster, for example, this portable radio station is placed right there in the middle of the
disaster area. Yeah.
And what does it actually do, and how does it actually help in the efforts or in the community?
Okay. So very different from the commercial radio stations, no? Kasi yung mga commercial radio stations, they will go into a disaster area to get information, for the ones outside of the disaster area. Kami naman is different. Ang ginagawa ng FEBC is we're there, we gather information from the community for the community. So the idea is, saan sila makakahanap ng tubig? Saan sila makakahanap ng tutuluyan, ng evacuation center? Anong sinasabi ng PDRRMC, yung Provincial Disaster Management doon? We get the information from the munisipyo, from the PDRRMC, or yung local government, and we are the ones who broadcast, not outside, but to the community. Dito po kayo pumunta, dito kayo kumuha ng tubig. So ang information is for the survivors. So you know,
very interesting way to empower the community during this time. No?
Yeah, so what happens is people in the different areas of the community, pag alam na nila, they go to the station, no? Like in this case, we were on the rooftop of the Catanduanes Provincial building. So nandun sila sa ibabaw. So nagpupuntahan ngayon doon yung barangay captain. So sabihin la, yung pong mga taga-barangay 2, dito po kayo pumunta, nandito po yung tulong ninyo. So that's the idea, no? Na it is really helping the community get up from where they were coming from. As a matter of fact, in Yolanda, that we had a story in Tacloban where nung after baksak lahat, the parish priest of the Church of Santo Niño in Tacloban got out of the church and he went to his car kasi yun lang yung may radyo. So tingin-tingin siya, napakinggan niya yung FRR radio station ng FEBC. And he found out that we were on top of the municipal hall, the city hall of Tacloban. Pumunta siya. So nagpa-announce siya, sabi niya gano'n, pwede po ba magpa-announce? Sabi ko, sure, pwede po kayo magpa-announce. Ano pong kailangan? Lahat ng walang matitirhan, pwedeng pumunta dun sa Santo Niño Parish para dun sila matulog, dun sila maligo. So ang ginawa ngayon namin, sabi namin, Father, meron po kaming mga pre-tuned radios para dun sa mga disaster victims. Pwede pa kayong mag-distribute? Sabi niya, pwede, may kotse ako. So binigyan namin siya ng radyo, siya yung nag-ikot. So he gave the radios to the different evacuation centers so that they can hear the message that we are trying to give out. So there is community. Kasi radyo nyo to. Parang ganon.
That's right. You began sharing the impact of what you're doing in the lives of people through real stories. Do you have other stories with all the other things that you're trying to do, whether it's an online thing or peace building or something for the young generation?
Yeah.
Stories of people, communities.
Another group that we're helping is we have a partnership with a group called Al Hayat, no, in Mindanao, in Cotabato, which is at the heart of the BARM, the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, no? And they're actually helping communities, Muslim group communities, in terms of community development. So they need some support in terms of broadcasting kasi sila, kausap na nila yung tao dun sa mga bara-barangay at alam nila
on the ground na sila eh.
On the ground sila eh. So we do not have to reinvent the wheel. FEBC does not have to come in and then we will see. Una-una, we are not from there. We are foreigners. So why will they listen to us? But the people of Al Hayat is already a group that's already doing community work with the Muslim communities. So all we have to do is to empower them, teach them how to do radio, how to do broadcast. Now, they're also live streaming na yun. Kasi even the mga Muslim communities, meron na rin silang mga cell phones, so they're able to listen through the cell phones already.
That's a wonderful thing that you mentioned, Dan. So you actually went in there and find out that there's something is already happening and learn from the situation. And you don't come in and do your own thing. You work with what's happening on the ground. Talk about to us about partnerships that you've seen.
Yes, kasi hindi na ganun eh. The idea now is not to come in and say, "Hey, we're the guys from Manila. We'll take care of you and we'll do everything." Hindi na. There are people who know the community like the back of their hand. So it's like what we do is, "Sir, ganito po ang gawin natin. Bigay namin yung mikropono sa inyo. Kayo na po magtawag sa kanila." In Zamboanga, for example, there is a group in Zamboanga. Many of the women there were not educated, no, hindi sila nakapag-aral. So, and then many of their children, sadly, were not registered when they were born, and the children cannot go to school unless they have a birth certificate. So what our radio station, together with the online platform that they did, they worked with WIMSU, the Western Mindanao State University, and they said, "Ma'am, let's do a birth registration campaign for our Muslim women with their children so that the children can go to school." So we worked with WIMSU and then the Civil Registrar's Office of Zamboanga, and then because we are, kasi kilala yung DXAS doon na Christian radio station, so obviously the Muslim community will not listen to us, no? So what we did was we invited an imam. So we got an imam from the community. We said, come over here and tell your people, get them their children registered so that their children can go to school. And that's exactly what happened. So, and because of that, now they're regular listeners of the station, and then many of their children are now going through basic education.
That's exciting. Wow, what powerful stories. Biro mo, having no birth certificate places that person or that little child in very vulnerable position for exploitation and abuse. But
yeah, and
what a powerful thing, you did.
Yeah, and for us, parang birth certificate, parang that's something we don't think of anymore, di ba? Parang it's natural na yan. Pag nanganak na, may birth certificate. Sa kanila, hindi ganon. So it was really a big thing. So when they received the children's birth certificate, para silang nag-graduate ng college. Para sasaya sa lahat.
Of course, you have also a thriving work and impactful work among OFWs, both those who are here and overseas. Tell us a little bit about that.
Now that's really one of the main online services that we provide. So noon, we said, pwede na pala sa internet. So we can actually do as a matter of fact, we now have a PH stream. We have an FEBC app that you can download both in the Google Play Store and in the App Store. And doon, you can listen to so it's a radio station. It's a virtual radio station because it doesn't have an actual radio station platform kasi it just uses the internet. And it is programs made for OFWs. So it has a legal program that talks about the documentation for OFWs, yung counseling because of the family separation issues. And then, of course, they want to listen to Filipino music and Filipino artists. So we introduce them. And nagugulat kami because of the response of many of the Filipino OFWs that are being touched by the online. They didn't realize kasi wala silang napapakinggan on air kasi nandun sila sa Middle East, nandun sila sa Hong Kong. So, and then pagka meron namang Filipino program, ang pinag-uusapan yung sa Hong Kong. Pero yung kalagayan ng pamilya nila to connect their families here in the Philippines to them, yun yung ginagamit namin, yung Pinoy Connection, which is an online service that we do.
Naalala ko one time I was assigned to make a trip to Cyprus and met with people that can possibly help us do satellite broadcasts or OFWs. Pero that nothing much happened to that. But I'm glad that FEBC now is able to impact the lives of many communities of our OFWs, our kababayans, scattered all over, including their families here. No, kasi there's a program over DCAS also that services.
And that's really the purpose, no? So like even for churches, like I said, not all the members of the churches, even with GCF, are able to get the virtual worship service that we have on Sundays. So we decided to partner with the churches and air their programs, their worship services on radio every Sunday. So if you don't have internet, you can listen to the radio and you can listen to the worship service.
Very nice, no? So people who are displaced or isolated can be connected because of what you're doing, radio, and how you are servicing the churches also while also being of public service to those who don't have internet. Dan, you've shared a lot of inspiring stories. Of course, there's more to tell, but our time is up.
Yeah.
Like to give you this opportunity just to challenge those who are viewing us and listening to us right now. Maybe they've been inspired. Maybe they also want to be a positive influence using media, the medium they have on their hands, which is the internet.
Mhm.
Be actual part of a media entity. Like, how do they participate in your work?
Well, I think that there are many ways to participate in the work of FEBC. Well, of course, first, as we would always say, pray for the work that we do, and pray for a lot of people, because right now that's one of the things that is very difficult to find: people who have a heart for the broadcast and to reach other people with the broadcast skills. Kasi nga sabi ko nga, because this is the more a traditional medium, hindi lang pwedeng basta-bastang magbo-broadcast ka. There are certain regulations. So that's one thing that you can do. And then the other is listen to the broadcast and tell people about the radio station. I'm very sure maraming mahilig sa classical music. So here in Metro Manila, you can listen to 98.7 DZFE FM. That is the only classical music station in the Philippines.
Since the 60s pa yata or 70s, di ba?
40s, 50s rather.
50s.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, since the 50s. So kaya talagang it started as the Manila's fine music station, and ngayon it's the Master's Touch. And as a matter of fact, somebody even told me that there's no format like that even in the United States at the moment. Na the Christian message, kasi ang sa kanila nga is the music of the masters and the master's word, yung ganong klaseng combination. It doesn't even exist in the US at the moment, and so it's here in the Philippines. So so invite people to listen, and then if you want naman yung AM band, then that's 702 DZAS, because the more people get to hear, then the message is given to them.
Well, you're listening to Mr. Dan Cura, President of FEBC Philippines, and he shared how this media organization, it's a mission organization, has actually used the medium and now tapping into other medium to continue their mission of propagating the gospel of life transformation, whether it's individuals or communities, through the Lord Jesus Christ. And that's the greatest news that you have been bringing and continue to bring to many lives, not just here in the Philippines, but globally. Dan, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much, and more power to GCF. And I do pray that you stay safe.
Thank you very much. And friends, maybe you've been inspired. Make sure you use the power that's in your hand to influence, whether it's pure entertainment or educational or some other way to broadcast or publish things online. Make sure that you be responsible and be a positive influence to build lives and communities. My name is Eric Dizon, and this is Belonging, your weekly podcast on Green Hills Christian Fellowship, 8 to 9 p.m. each Wednesday. And next week, Dan, we'll be talking about how people plan to celebrate Christmas 2020. I hope you can join us also, watch us online when we do that.
Sure.
Any last words before we say our final goodbye?
Well, just to say that right now, let's pray for a lot of people, especially the ones in the front line. And for all of us, just as a beginning salvo to your next discussion, sabi nga nila sa IATF, apat dapat. Always wear a mask, physical distance, always wash your hands, and then time your visits. So not too long so that you don't get yourself exposed too much. Apat dapat.
Importante daw po yung apat na yun. Ideally, all four should be there. Pero kung at least mawala isa, may tatlo pa. Just to lessen, or not prevent, lessen infection. So yes, stay safe, and God bless you guys. Thank you, Dan.
God bless you. Thank you.